before we begin this review, I think I should correct something. In my previous Castlevania review, I pronounced it Wallachia. Well, after having watched the rest of the first season, I know it's Wallachia now, so I apologize for my shitty pronunciation. 2, this is not going to be a super long review because this episode is very heavy on its exposition. So this one's not going to be as detailed as the last one. I'm still going to go through the entire plot, but it's going to be more of just a general summary because there's pretty much nothing but talking in this episode. That doesn't make it bad per se, but it just makes it a little hard to really articulate. So, because of that, this might be one of the shorter reviews out of this Castlevania-Thon, but trust me when I say, it doesn't mean that it's a bad episode. It's a decent one. It kind of falls into that same category as that super exposition-heavy episode from Attack on Titan. So, I'd say this kind of falls into that same tier. It's a decent episode, it's a good episode, but it is very, very heavy on exposition. So, because of that, it's definitely not going to stack up to the rest of the episodes of the next seasons to come. So, I'm not trying to treat this unfairly. I'm just trying to make that very clear right out of the gate. That way you guys know why this review is so short. Anyway, let's talk about it. What's up? What's happening? What's going on? Welcome back to the Animation Station. And what's your fan of the animation, including this. Sorry, I'm still trying to think of the tagline. As well as TV and movies, I'm your host, Jackson Small. Welcome back to Castlevania-Thon. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of the Castlevania anime, titled Necropolis. This is the episode where Dracula takes a backseat, and instead, we are invested in watching the escapades of Trevor Belmont, who was at the tacked-on ending of the last episode. And it is a good episode, but as I stated before, it is very, very heavy on exposition, so it's not one of my favorites. So, you guys know how it works by now. I read the synopsis, then I go through the plot, and we just go from there. So, without further ado, let's dive in. This is the plot of Episode 2 of Castlevania. Trevor Belmont drifts into the panicking city of Gresit, where he learns of an ancient evil and makes a surprising vow. The episode unfolds where the previous episode left off, in the tavern in Murdenu, the small town on the outskirts of Gresit. Boscia is still complaining about the Belmonts as the unnamed man sitting not far from him grows more frustrated. Drinking more than he should, the man stumbles his way to the bar and asks the innkeeper for one last tankard of ale before taking his leave. The innkeeper is disinclined to give him another until he's produced some coin. Fumbling through his clothes, the man doesn't seem to have any luck. As he searches through his clothes, Boscia notices the family crests on his tunic. He identifies it as the Belmont coat of arms right away, but the man tries to defuse the situation. Boscia is having none of it, claiming that everyone knows the Belmonts were excommunicated by the church and have had their lands confiscated because of their dealings with black magic. Boscia blames the Belmonts for bringing evil into the world and for the rise of Dracula's armies of monsters. So he finds this as the perfect opportunity to rid the world of one of them, but he demands a confession first. The man, however, refuses and tries to set the record straight and leave. But to no avail, because Boscia's an asshole. After the patrons attack him, the man admits that he is Trevor Belmont, the last member of his clan. After a brief brawl, he leaves the tavern seeking a place to sleep, and I gotta read the dialogue here. It's fucking funny. Bastards, I hope you all bleed out through your asses. Like, Trevor's an asshole, but he's the funny kind of asshole, which is what kind of makes him endearing. Okay. After a brief brawl, he leaves the tavern seeking a place to sleep. On the following day, Trevor arrives in Gresit, a city under siege by Dracula's army. With heads on pikes, intestines wrapped around the walls, and it is one of the most gruesome sights in the show yet. Like, it is vicious. Like, this scene's going to be a little controversial, but I gotta talk about it. There is a scene right before Trevor enters Gresit where we see one of Dracula's monsters holding a dead baby in its mouth. Yeah, this show does not hold back. So definitely don't watch this if you're sensitive to gore, because it's not for you. Okay, now we can continue. As Trevor overlooks the city, several people inside scream at waking up next to the mangled corpses of their husbands and children. Severed heads on stakes line the walls, and the ditches beneath the street bridges are piled high with corpses. The townsfolk are so fearful that the gate has been barricaded. But fortunately for Trevor, no one has bothered to repair the broken grate over the city's sewer outlet. Never thought I'd be crawling up a shit pipe in search of a breakfast. I love Trevor, he's such a fun asshole. In the city square, Trevor's last coin buys him a strip of goat jerky, and he walks about, munching his meager breakfast and talking with several of the town's residents. Several of them mention a local legend of a sleeping soldier, a great warrior who supposedly sleeps in the catacombs of the city. But the residents are divided as to the cause of Gresit's current troubles. Many blame the small tribe of speakers in the city, and are confident that once they are purged, as the bishop has ordered, the demons will leave the city as well. But another warns Trevor darkly, the demons come at night, but the bishop's men come during the day. While strolling a street, Trevor encounters two of these men, wearing the vestments of priests, but otherwise carrying the air and weapons of street thugs. The priests shove the elder of the speakers into an alley, one of them warning him that the speakers were told to be out of Gresit before sundown, and parroting the bishop's words that they are obviously responsible for the demon's presence, draws a cross-shaped stave and prepares to beat the old man to death. That's when Trevor lashes out with his whip, taking off the priest's finger and causing him to drop the stave. Trevor proposes that the two priests leave the old man alone and depart without further violence. But the second priest draws a knife and lunges at Trevor. Neither of the priests realize they are dealing with a trained fighter until the second lash from Trevor's whip rips the second priest's eyeball out of its socket. Like I said before, gorehounds will be pleased. Done with trying to be reasonable, Trevor orders the first priest to pick up his half-blind cohort and make them scarce, which they do. The elder thanks Trevor for his help and invites him to stay in their little hut. The speakers have come to Gresit to aid its people since medical services and even basic order have been broken down with the nightly invasions of the demons. Trevor says it is not safe for them to stay while the church blames them for those invasions, and from what Trevor saw and heard, too many people are willing to believe it. The elder admits there is another reason they are staying, the legend of the sleeping warrior, a being supposedly powerful enough to defend the people from the monsters. I almost said city, please excuse me. One of their band went down into the city catacombs to try and find him, but has failed to return. The elder is reluctant to say more, but one of the younger speakers, Arn, that's literally his name, confesses that the missing speaker is the elder's grandchild. Reluctantly, Trevor proposes that if he recovers the elder's grandchild from the catacombs, or at least the remains of them, because he automatically assumes that they are dead, the speaker will leave Gresit before nightfall. As he's leaving the hut, the elder confides to him that death does not frighten them. The only thing that does is living without having done their best to help others. And that's pretty much the episode. Like I said, it's a lot of exposition dumping, it's a lot of talking, and not much action. But there's some funny moments. It's our first episode where we fully get introduced to Trevor Belmont, and he is a funny but badass kind of guy. Like, he is a funny asshole, but he is a very good funny asshole. Like, he is skilled with his weapons, and he will not stand by and let innocent people be killed. Which, I mean, considering his demeanor, you'd think would be the absolute opposite of that, but nope. That is pretty much the episode. And Trevor himself is a really cool character I'm already invested in. And the voice acting here is great too. Like I said, I'm going to wait until the end to really talk about all the voice cast here. But I will give a little bit of a shout out here to Trevor's voice actor, Richard Armitage, who many of you may or may not know as Heinz Borden from Captain America: The First Soldier. So, yeah, that's pretty much the episode. It's a lot of exposition dumping, a little bit of humor, and we get a nice formal introduction to Trevor Belmont. Final thoughts, my summary, pretty much one sentence. A very exposition-heavy episode saved by some intense gore and great voice acting. If it didn't have that, this would probably be like an average, maybe below average episode of Castlevania, because there are a few times when it can go a little too hard on the exposition. But it's still good writing, it's still great voice acting, and like I said, the gorehounds will be pleased with what they see, because there is plenty of blood and guts and intestines and violence in this show. So, yeah, overall, final verdict, 6 out of 10. It's not quite as good as episode 1, but it's still good, it's still decent. I just wish they'd cut down the exposition a little bit. Well, we'll see if they actually listen to me and do that when we dive into the next episode of this show. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you for episode 3, Labyrinth. The pain I pushed aside.